And we are back. Welcome so much, everybody. And sorry, we're a little bit behind schedule today. It's been a while. Sean and I haven't been here for about a month now. So we've missed all of you viewers who've been following us and paying attention to us and wondering what's going on. But we'll keep you all posted and up to date. Fall's a little bit of a busier schedule for us because of trainings and things like that are happening. Welcome, Felix, and Felix as well too. And it's been a busy summer for all of us as things open up and uh, people are being asked to do in-person events and things like that. We've been attending to some of those things, so it hasn't allowed us this opportunity to get together in this format, but we'll continue to come as much as we can and as often as we can so that we all stay connected in community in this virtual platform and space. But we'd love to make sure that we connect with all of you as well in person if the opportunity arises and presents itself. We'd love those opportunities and those connections. Again, my name is Pheng, he, him, his, with the Men, Masculine Folks Network, and this is a platform and a space where we as men and masculine folks across the state of Minnesota can have conversations around how we navigate and how we practice how to be healthy in our own lives and the lives of the people that we're in relationship with, particularly around our gender and gender identity and expression of being men and masculine identified people. So I will pass it on to my two siblings here, and then I'll I'll take it from there to see what the conversation for today is.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felix Martinez. My pronouns are he, him, and his, or él, and I work for Esperanza United as an engaging men and boy program specialist. Super excited to be here. Thank you.
And hey, everybody, my name is Sean Hayes. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm coming to everybody here from Duluth, Minnesota. I work with Men as Peacemakers, working here with the Men and Masculine Folks Network, and also with our Don't Buy It project. So just, yeah, very excited to be back together with a couple of our folks here, at least today.
Yeah, and it's so great to mention that this is our 47th conversation. The last conversation, Serrano and Rajak held it down for us. Had a great interview. At least it seems so, but I truly believe that it was a great interview with Janine, if I'm pronouncing it right, Sean. So we're excited that this is our 47th. So much has gone on. So we have lots that we can potentially be talking about today. So we're not sure what the theme of the conversation will be, but it'll be good to just check in as well too, because all three of us haven't been in space with each other for a while to just see what's up. Summer's almost over. Fall's right around the corner in about 2 weeks or so. I think the Farmer's Atlas or Almanac or whatever is predicting that it'll be a harsh winter for all of us who are in the Midwest here. That it's going to be a long winter, or that winter will come early. That's what I'm hearing or seeing that the Almanac is saying, the Farmer's um, prediction of what the next several months will look like. So it might be a long winter. And obviously we're still living in COVID as well too, and so there's like tons of things. I know there was like 2-3 weeks ago there was a murder suicide in the Hmong community again, involving a gun this time. And typically in the Hmong community, guns aren't the choice of weapon in domestic violence, homicides, and suicides. It typically is knife or strangulation, or hammers or some other object other than a gun. But we do see gun as a tool that is often used in other communities a little bit more. And I know that Violence Free Minnesota tracks how guns are being used as a tool and a choice of weapon in domestic violence, homicides, and suicides. And so I just wanted to name that and share that as well. And now we have three or five, I should say, five kids who are all under 18 and who are all, I think, under 12 too, to my knowledge, without parents, living with the sisters and aunts and uncles now, and then trying to get I know the local organization Transforming Generations is supporting the family as well too, to get the kids in the support and care that they actually need as well too. So yeah, I that, and I know that Sean, you had mentioned something as well too in terms of um, some relationship with some artist, a musician, I believe. Sean will talk more about that as well. But aside from all of that, I've been doing great. Had a great vacation a couple of weeks ago with my family. Had to just squeeze it in because if I didn't squeeze it in, it wasn't going to happen. And with school starting, so it was like we just had to squeeze it in and try to get all my work done before I went on vacation. But it's hard. It's hard not to, and so I had to have like an hour or two each day. There was like 2 days that I actually did get the attention, and my family to get the attention of me, full attention, I should say. But besides that, all the other 5 days or so, there was like an hour here, an hour there, to averaging about 1.5 hours in those 5 days where I worked. Um, and had to be in conversations with people because of things that happened. So try not to be too overworked here, but that goes the sort of, I think, surfacing things that are surfacing and unveiling itself in this moment as we're in this place of adjusting to COVID in our own lives and adjusting to like coming back to some normalcy, quote unquote, if I could say that, or adjusting to this new way of being and living, of going to places and making sure we test afterwards, so yeah, just thinking about all those things and how I've been navigating and thinking about how I've been practicing being healthy and being healthy in the relationships for the ones that I love, particularly for my two children, who look up to me, and making sure that I have time for them in the midst of all of this as well too. So good to be back. Those are things that I wanted to just put out there and see what the two of you share as well too. We'll go from there.
Thank you, Peng. Super nice to see you again. I also coming back from vacations. Super busy. I
Oh,
just
and you had a birthday too while you were there.
yes,
So happy,
yes.
happy.
46 years old. So yeah. So almost in that 50, you know, range. But super excited. I came back from Mexico. I spent time with my spouse around 6 days. Sort of first solo trip. I have two daughters who they're now in college, so that's a reason to celebrate. A reason to now utilize the time to spend it more with my spouse, spending more time together. Now that we don't have the girls, even that they're all in our radar, radar, yeah, radar. So it was super nice. It was a great experience learning a little bit more about the Mexican culture. It was amazing. And I just I was taking a training. I just messaged Sean that I wasn't sure if I will be able to make it, just because the training was supposed to end at noon, but you know that sometimes those trainings extend a little bit longer. But I was lucky enough to that end a little bit earlier. So it was really nice. It's a curriculum from the Hotline, I think, is organization that's a training that we're gonna be implementing with Latino students in the school district of Eagan. It's a town here in Minnesota. It's a school district 196, so it's Eagan, Rosemount, and Apple Valley. So I'm super excited to do that. Super excited to start facilitating those sessions with the youth. Mostly based and gender-based violence prevention, and obviously allyship, healthy relationship, etc. So yeah, and I already hear that some of the students are asking where we at, just because they were expecting us to start right away, but we normally try to leave a little bit of space for them to start classes, meet their new teachers, get used to school. But I understand that a lot of the youth really appreciate have spaces for boys where they can have the type of conversations that we have here. They're so important. And some of the feedbacks from some of the youth is that they never had these conversations before. Some of them have said that they never knew that women were strong and women were capable of doing many things. So a lot of the feedback that we had from them is super positive, and that's something we want to keep duplicating. That seed that we're planting in this youth hopefully is going to keep growing and impacting not only their lives but also the life from their family members, siblings, etc. So super excited with that. Like Peng said, we're super busy trying to get time, pull time from where we don't have. We're so busy, but super happy to have this chance. And like I said, I finished my training. I just want to jump right away because I really appreciate this space. And as a man that also, have this type of conversation and facilitate this type of spaces, I also need it. I'm not perfect. I need to be surrounded people they're positive, that they can make me accountable too, because it's easy to fall in the traps of patriarchy, when we live in those systems that we're so used to it. So super grateful to be here, super excited about this conversation that we don't know what we're gonna ask or talk about, but sometimes that's how it is. It's just have a conversation about our lives, so what we're doing, what's going on, and those are fun. Make this conversation a little bit real, and that's our life. So I will pass it to Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely relate to that. Just missing being in this space with you two, as well as Serrano and Ed, who we haven't seen in a little bit. He was actually going to be joining us today, but then had something come up. So I said, we got to plan it. We'll get you in here, as well as Roderick, too. So sending love to folks who aren't here today. And yes, a happy belated birthday to my friend Felix. That's kind of part of my, how things have been going on, with me. I've been getting to spend a little bit more time, quality time, I would say, with my friend Felix here, and in a new role that I've taken on at Menace Peacemakers with the Don't Buy It project. And so that's been very sweet for me to be able to get to spend more time with you and learn and sort of see how you approach this work, especially with the youth, which is an area that I don't have a whole lot of experience in. So I've been very much enjoying learning this new role and position, and getting to collaborate with you, and Esperanza United has just been awesome so far. So yeah, it definitely feels like the summer has shifted. We're in this time of transition, transformation into fall, and that was actually a conversation we were having this morning during a staff meeting at MAP. Just kind of looking forward into what's coming, and this feels sort of like a place where there's a lot of things happening, when we're getting set, and then moving into winter or the school year or whatever it is. So it felt good to kind of reflect on all of the areas in my life, that are sort of in transition, or I am transforming in some way, whether it's personal growth or at work or within community and the work that I do there. Always learning. So always grateful to be in these conversations with you two, who I greatly admire and look to as mentors in this work. I also was very grateful to be able to get to spend some time with my family, my wife and kiddo. We got to go on an extended family vacation a couple of weeks back, which I was sharing with Peng earlier. That's kind of the first time our family has been able to do that, where all of myself and brothers have our kids there, and they're all running around and riding bikes and swimming, and it was really a beautiful, really cool time to be with family and just to rest. I don't rest very often, so It's a good reminder. I like that all of us are sort of just coming back from some resting. So shout out for folks who need to take a day off, or if you're able to take some rest, it is very good and needed. And yeah, I'm also just excited to see where this conversation goes. I kind of like it when there's no set topic to see what comes forth. Yeah, Pheng had mentioned I had brought forward, for those who know the musician Demi Lovato. They recently released a new album. And one of the things I've sort of noticed and been following in regards to that is not only that I love their album, I definitely recommend it. If you're kind of a punk rock kind of person, if you're into that, it's good. But also, a lot of their songs on this album are just very deeply authentic, sharing their story. One in particular, one song is called 29, which has really kind of connected with a lot of women, femme, and queer folks across the world, I think, and really talks a lot about how they had been in a relationship with an older man when they were 17 and that person was 29. And so it's really kind of brought a new, I think, a new platform for folks who have been in similar relationships with such a huge age gap, and with that, being underage. And it's just really brought forward folks being able to share their own stories with that type of a relationship. And in the song, they describe that at the time, like it felt like a fantasy, like it was this beautiful thing. And now, that's part of the song. They are now that same age as that partner. And so looking back and seeing things very differently, seeing how harmful in actuality, that relationship was, and how often we see that, where there are these really big age gaps, and wondering about consent and all of these, power and control dynamics that come with those big age gaps, especially when you're in a relationship with a youth and you're an adult. So that was just something that I have seen recently, and it feels like folks are feeling empowered to be able to share that about them, their own experiences. And I just have appreciated, and my cat is joining me, but I just appreciate when folks sort of create a new platform, a new way, or a new space to allow folks to talk about harm experienced, and then like the healing that can now happen, that is possible. Gets me a little choked up. But yeah, I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I just wanted to mention that. So I definitely recommend folks take a listen to the song 29 and see what you think.
Before Peng probably start the conversation, I just want to also talk a little bit that you mentioned the Don't Buy It project. Eventually, during our kitchen table conversation, we're going to be hopefully bringing these topics, probably 1 or 2 sessions discussing what this curriculum is about. That's commercial sexual exploitation and human trafficking prevention, and how to get men involved in this. So I'm super excited. So this is just to let everybody know that in the next probably year, you will hear for a little bit more and learn about this amazing curriculum. So I'm super excited about it, and that we're gonna be also facilitating the curriculum in the high schools in Minnesota, and at least in the district that I'm working. So hopefully more than 100 Latino youth will be receiving this amazing curriculum and learning from it. So yes.
Yeah. No, Felix, you go ahead. I was gonna be like, I wasn't gonna start anything. I was just gonna piggyback off of Sean, especially on the respite part of it, because I think
yes. Yeah. Well, something that we can talk is that it's a National Suicide Prevention Week that is starting September 4th and now in September 10th, the 10th. So obviously that's something that affects us all. I have loved ones that have attempted suicide, and it's something that's a topic that sometimes we don't like to talk because it's very personal, but it's a reality that a lot of us we live, day by day. Mental health is one of those topics that we should not only have in this space, but also in our kitchen table conversations at home, with our loved ones. So be sure that they feel supported, that they know that even we go sometimes to some dark path in their lives, there's always the light at the end of the tunnel, and there's always a solution from everything in life. And at any point, if anybody need help or need to talk to someone, there's phone numbers that you can talk, that you can receive support, that you can in your own language. Even I'm my first language is Spanish, though I can find a place that I can talk and in my own language, and let them know what I'm going through, and receive resources, receive support, because life is not easy. It's not perfect like we see it at Facebook, as we see it on TikTok. Everybody's having the best time of their lives, And we talk about vacations, the best example is what Sean said. He haven't had a family vacation in a long, long time, and that's the reality. Some other, folks don't even have the opportunity to go on vacation because they need to live check by check. Is a reality that a lot of us will leave, and that's why it's so important to support, or friends, the people that we see on the street. We can change a life sometimes just by talking to someone that we see that they're alone. Let them know that there's people that care for them. So, but yeah, I put it there to hear a little bit of what you guys think, about suicide. I don't know. I know Peng is a psychologist, so you could spend the next 2 hours talking about it, but I don't know. I just want to put it there and hear a little bit about you guys. I'm not an expert, so I'm open to learn.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you. Uh, I definitely think that the part that you were sharing earlier, Sean, um, that I wanted to comment on in terms of the rest part is like that's so much needed, and getting that break, whether it be emotional, mental, or physically, all three of those, or spiritually for those of us who are also uh, into that spirituality piece of it in the broadest sense, which includes religion in it as well too. Um, is that those things are actually needed, that we need those breaks, and I think about like how we do. I know that the two of you know this, is that how we do those movement um, moves, those Tai Chi moves, and we talk about the clean breaks, from one move to the next move. It's so vitally important that we need those moments to actually rest and pause, and then move, right? And I think that um, COVID itself, for sure, has really done a lot on our bodies and been taxing on our souls and been taxing on our physical and emotional well-being, and as we adjust to living with COVID, probably moving forward in our own lives at this moment, that it means for us that people are yearning to be in community in physical ways. And wherever I've gone, wherever I've traveled so far up to this point, is that people wanted to be in physical proximity with one another. People miss that physical space and sharing that physical space and taking the precautions that they need to take to ensure that they can actually be in space with one another as well too, and safely, and then enjoy the presence of one another in that way, because it's been a long time in terms of that break, right? So I just wanted to mention that. I think on the coattail, what you were sharing, Felix, there about suicide prevention, with both of these murder suicides in the Hmong community. Obviously, we understand and know that suicide is like the number one killer of men and masculine identified people in the world, and that is the thing that happens, and that's why it's so important, I think, aside from anything else, when we concentrate and focus on the issues that are happening in the lives of men and masculine folks. It's so very vitally important that we seek the help that we need, not only do we seek the help that we need and the support that we need, but it's so vitally important for the people around us to actually be able to reach in and reach out to us as well too, so that we can get the kind of support that we want, or that it is being offered, that support is being offered. And at times they may have to actually like literally drag us emotionally and physically out of our own places and spaces, and that sometimes is required to get out of our own headspaces and our own emotional uh, what do I want, holes that we're getting ourselves into, if I can say that. uh, and that's why I think such platforms as this, to your point earlier, Felix, um, is so vitally important, that we need these kinds of spaces so we can do. It keeps us healthy, right? Having conversations with other men in our lives in the ways that we do here. Uh, not that we are the end all one all stop shop, but practicing in these ways and practicing these kinds of organic conversations of just checking in the way that we've been the last 20 or so minutes allows us to maybe perhaps see things or experience life in a different way, or may open up certain parts of who we are um, that we've not been paying attention to in the couple of last months or the last 2 years or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to mention that piece because I know it's the number one killer of men and masculine folks is suicide, and it's definitely not something um, that is solely on the responsibility of that person to seek out support only, but to make sure that the people who are around them also reach in and really reach out to them and really push them as well too. And obviously change is always on that person, and that person makes that choice, but I think we can do what it is we can do on our end. I've always shared, the sad thing about it is that I always shared is that people will make the choices that they make ultimately, right? And that can be within half a second, that can be within a second, that can be within a blink of an eye. People will commit harm to themselves or commit suicide, even if you've done the best that you could. So, for those of us who are around folks who are contemplating, thinking about self harm or suicide in those ways, um, I want to offer and say that um, also acknowledge that we done the best that we could as well too at moments like that, you know. But to know that whatever it is that we do, ultimately people still have a choice that they're going to have to make, because it's harmful for us to actually enforce choices on people. The hope is that we can influence them in a different direction, right? And that is all that we could do, is to influence them. So when I say dragging people out, is sometimes some people just need that kind of a nudge, and then they come to a place where they're like, oh, actually the choice, whether unknowing to them in that moment or not, they will eventually be able to come back and say, oh, I did make a choice to actually be moving and living in this kind of a direction. Um, and suicide is a choice as well too, sadly enough, and so I want to say that prevention is both possible and intervention is both possible, the same we talk about violence as well too. And yet at the same time, it hinders on the choices that people make in those situations at the same time too. And so that becomes the variable in the equation that makes it so challenging and so hard at times for us to navigate, when we talk about suicide, and not all of us know how to talk about it, because to Felix's point, it's not comfortable. The same as like the two murder suicides that happened in the Hmong community that I'll keep relaying to and paralleling in this conversation, or what I'm sharing here, is that people around those folks may have some idea of what's going on, but they don't have the tools or the skills necessary to actually navigate the violence that is actually going to be happening, or that is actually happening, whether it be the self-harm or whether it be the violence that one person experiencing from the other person, right? And the family members and the friends, um, who are around and the siblings who are around may have some idea what's going on in that person's life, but it is also because it's personal, to Felix's point, that they don't want to actually come in and really interrupt, or because we love that person so much we don't want to see them be further harmed, or right, or further do get more damage, quote unquote, or experience more impact or more hurt or harm than they have experienced. So these are the variables in terms of safety that we have to consider, that people may not have the skill sets and knowledge and tools to navigate, right? And I think that that's why having advocates, both suicide prevention advocates and domestic violence and sexual violence advocates, who do that work and who have the skills, who have the know-how to sort of help walk people through it. And sometimes it's always easier to have somebody else walk your loved one through and navigate with them through that violence or the experiences that they're having in their life, rather than you as their loved one, because you are not going to be playing that kind of a role. You can't be an advocate to them, because your role to them is as a family member, right? And so really encouraging family members and um, community folks to reach out as well too, if they don't have the skills. But I think that it's important for us and community in both the prevention and intervention of either harms to really seek and get the skills to better themselves. So really, to your idea around don't buy a project, definitely that is a prevention tool. It's a skill building place, training, so that boys and young men understand how to navigate when issues and experiences arise in their life, and the choices that they can make and what they can say to their friends and colleagues, right? And so we need to keep doing those kinds of, I think, trainings and um, skill building in community. It's not enough. I've learned is that it's not enough for us to just talk about suicide or talk about domestic violence. It's not enough for us to just understand those things. Understanding it hasn't prevented any death, right? Understanding gun violence hasn't prevented the Uvalde shooting that happened, and the harm that guns have caused. Like, we have to actually take some action to actually both prevent and intervene in it, right? And that's always been the point, is how do we actually get it before it happens, you know?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate bringing this topic forward. So thanks, Felix. I think it's definitely something that we don't talk a lot about because of that uncomfortableness, and I think that there's a lot of folks within our communities who um, are struggling, whether it's like trying to struggle through the barriers, that society has created, and makes lives harder for folks, whether it's people within the queer community and trans community, young folks there who are houseless and dealing with suicidal ideation. I just feel like it is a topic that we need to be discussing more. And I don't think, agreed here that we don't all need to be experts in order to check in on our folks. Just a simple, how are you doing? Are you feeling suicidal at all? Even practicing saying that sentence, that question, um, can make asking it just feel a little bit less uncomfortable. And ultimately, as someone who's lost a dear friend to suicide and has multiple friends who have had attempts as well, it's like I would much rather feel a little bit uncomfortable to ask that question or to have this conversation here and now today, than to be silent and that person that I care about, whether it's someone in my own family or just someone in the broader community, doesn't have that support, right? So I think it's just a massive issue. And I think about, particularly in the trans community, the rate of suicide is like 47, 48%. And that was from some data collected a couple years ago. So that's, I mean, thinking about all of the folks who who are impacted by this issue, and then all of their folks, all of the family and friends that are impacted. So, yeah, it's one of those that it's like I just have to like let myself feel it and like, and then just, yeah, realizing that, that's something that I have had in my own life, is suicidal thoughts. And so to be more open about that and to share, because I think when folks hear people sharing our stories a little bit, that sort of, again, it creates the space and a safer feeling for folks to come forward, to connect, to reach out for help and support. So, yeah, definitely. If you are someone who is listening to this conversation, I know without a doubt you could reach out to the three of us at any point, and we are certainly here to help support and connect you to resources and to the experts.
I would like to share something very quick. Esperanza United is have a series of webinars during September, and is one of them is creating a wellness altar, a workshop of restoring well-being and healing. I think altars is something that maybe a lot of men, especially Puerto Rican men like me, they're not used to. They don't know, but it's a great way to have a space to meditate, to remember positive things, to remind us, of those loved ones that maybe they're not with us anymore. And especially that is going to have this webinar. One was today that already passed, and the next one is going to be September 22nd. So if there's people that want to probably learn a little bit about it, of how to create an altar, or they're curious about it, I think go to our website. I think it's www.esperanzaunited.org. I think the facilitator of the webinar is Dr. Emmanuel Samaripa. I'm just reading this right now. He's the director, a co-founder of the Institute of Chicana Psychology, based in Austin, Texas. So this is another tool for men and any masculine folks, or any person interested in learning a little bit about creating a wellness altar and reclaiming our resilience. So check it out. I think it's another good tool to to learn, and to bring to our circles and our families, and to explore too. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely something, the same as we talk about when we talk about stopping all forms of violence, that this is included. The violence that we do to our own selves is really important as well too, and to recognize that that violence is connected to the violence that we perhaps may be participating in with others, directly or indirectly. The violence that happens in our own homes, in terms of domestic violence and sexual violence, is connected to the violence of suicide as well too, right? That these violence and these forms of violence and acts of violence don't exist alone by themselves, and they're not singular issues, though they can be, and though they have been talked about that way, and though there have been narratives that have talked about it, and stories that have been isolated that way, so that we can do single stories. Singular stories are damaging because it doesn't paint the understanding of the experiences and the totality of that experience, or of that harm, or of that group of people, right? That's why it's harmful in that way. Not to say that people shouldn't tell their stories, but we should tell our stories in the ways in which it connects to other people's stories, right? And I think that is something, that is a value that we hold strongly here between all three of us and others who come into conversation with us and come into community with us, is the understanding that we are all connected. So therefore we are responsible for one another in those ways. Therefore we are accountable to one another in those ways. And that value of connection is the value that we are loyal to, and I am dearly grateful and beloved to a dear friend of mine, Kajova, who always said that we're not in service of our friendship, we are not in service of one another, but we are in service of our community, and we are in service of our connectedness, right? That I will add is that we are in service of our connectedness. And because of that, we want to make sure that at moments it may feel like we're betraying our friends and family because we're speaking out about that violence, whether it be domestic violence or suicide or whatever, or that we're ruining their confidentiality or whatever. But to stop violence is to actually make it public. To name the violence is to make it public. There's no sense of like betraying or ruining confidentiality there when we are able to actually name the violence. The only way it's going to stop, that violence is going to stop, and any of these violence is going to stop, is to make it public, to make it known, so that more people in community know about it and more people pay attention to it. More people are actually taking responsibility for it. No longer are people washing their hands off of it because it's a private issue. No longer are people washing their hands off of it because it's happening in that household or that relationship, and it's not, as long as it's not happening in mine. So poor thing over there, right? Like all the things that we always say after every school shooting is thoughts and prayers, but thoughts and prayers don't do anything, right? So how do we get to this place of being loyal to the connectedness that we value so much in community, in this space that we've created, right? How can we do that in a way that also disrupts our way of being connected to one another? That if I see Sean moving down that path, it could be like, I'm going to talk about it to Felix. I'm going to talk about your thoughts about this self-harm to other people, right? And obviously have a conversation with you on it. But I alone cannot stop that violence. That I've learned over the last close to 20 years in doing this work, is stopping violence requires everybody in community to do their part. Thinking about safety and what safety means, it requires everybody. And so I think that the conversations that we have around, that we've had here as well too, around safety, community safety, family safety, everybody has to participate in it. It can't just be the police that is the only force that can stop the violence or intervene in it. That hasn't worked. We have seen that hasn't stopped the violence the last 100 years or so, right? In fact, sometimes it adds more to it, right? Sometimes it becomes the factor to the violence actually escalating. So how do we actually all participate in creating safe communities, safe homes, safe bodies, safe relationships? It means that all of us have to be connected. It means all of us have to be responsible, and it means we all have to be talking about it, right? And we all have to be going beyond that loyalty to our friendships and to our siblings and things like that, that we move into this place of understanding that because of this notion and idea and the value that we share, it may seem like I'm now telling your story to other people, but it's needed in order to stop this violence. Is that it's needed, right? In the healing work that I think, Sean, you had mentioned earlier, is that healing can't be done and should not be done alone, even though that's much needed. I don't want to say it. I don't want to dismiss it. And I also want to caveat that I don't want to dismiss that people have the right to their privacy and confidentiality. But in moments like this, I also want to recognize that that's a tension place that we have to work through, right? Because that's the only way in which, the only reason why people were able to commit suicide or do self-harm or commit domestic violence was because it was done behind closed doors. It was done in places where people didn't look or didn't bother to look, or were turning their backs on, or people were like, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to see it. And nobody else was talking about it, right? They weren't talking about it to other people. Action wasn't being done about it. So I really think that we really need to disrupt the ways in which we're in relationship with one another, and really reconfigure those relationships and the ways in which we're in community together to our values, and really making sure that our values are being lived, practiced, the same way that we talk about how do we be healthy here, and that is a value of men, and that we need to practice being healthy, and that means we have to talk openly about these things, you know.
I changed my name from Felix to, if you can see it in the bottom, so, to the phone number of the suicide prevention hotline. So just call 988 if you feel that you need help or you need to talk to someone, or if you know someone who's contemplating doing that. People can also text to 988. So it's an easy number, to remember, to be sure to have it on your phone, and to share it with your loved ones, because man, we don't like to talk when we're going through hard times. We don't like to other people to see us like weak, see us as a weak person. So sometimes, you know getting all that on you, day by day, trying to hold all that is not, it's not fair. So as a man, just talk to people. Don't be scared of talking about your feelings, uh and and be more vulnerable, and show that to your loved ones, sons, daughters, because in these times, we have, working with you, to have seen that is very difficult for them, just because they feel that they need to show to the community, to their community, or their net, or their people around them, a face that's not their true face or their real face. So let's start breaking those stereotypes, and those expectations that sometimes we have. And it's okay to not be okay. I think, look for help if it's needed. And we, like Sean said, we're here. You can find us in social media too. And but 988 is a great resource, so please share with your loved ones.
Thanks for that, Felix. I was actually trying to find that information and you beat me to it. And I'm going to just drop this little scrolling thing. So, for folks who are in the trans community, I always like to uplift this resource, translifeline.org. If you are struggling with suicide, if you're having thoughts of that, you can call them as a transgender nonconforming person, two-spirit person, and actually speak with another trans person, and they will assist you and provide that support. So definitely save that one for your trans and gender nonconforming relatives. And I know that we're sort of, coming up to the time where we'll wrap things up. So I just wanted to drop that in there, and then see, what the two of you are thinking about as we're closing our conversation here, and any final thoughts that you two might like to share.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the conversation and appreciate being back in this virtual space with both of you. And it feels like ages that we haven't connected or seen each other in this kind of a way. And, because we don't actually have a lot of opportunities to actually see each other in person physically as well too. So looking forward to hopefully the ways in which we can do that moving forward in some ways. And we've always talked about, like, maybe perhaps one of these days we'll all get together and really do this in physically, or have one of these chats physically with one another at the kitchen table. We're having it virtually here, but appreciative always of the two of you and for the conversation.
Yeah, that sounds great. Kitchen table conversation live, but live. So somewhere us together. I was just talking actually yesterday to Sean, doing a check in, and my spouse say, looking for excuses to go to Duluth. Duluth is where Sean is located, and it's not like it's more than 2 hours from here. So he was looking for an excuse just to say, what, you need, support, you need anything, just we just bring our tent, we just go to the park and stay there. We really love camping, but it's that sometimes some ways to do self-care is going camping, doing, random stuff like that, and being sure that you're taking care of each other. I really appreciate everybody at MAP. I think I have learned so much. I haven't been doing this work for that long, so I see them as mentors, like amazing individuals, same as Peng. But Peng is in Wisconsin. I don't know. Sometimes he's in Wisconsin, sometimes he's here. So Peng's probably a little bit harder to to get him. But maybe, soon we will get together. I think there's a retreat probably in the way too. So that's gonna be nice. So thank you, everyone. Remember to take care of our loved ones. Remind them to our sons and daughters that we love them, and be open to them. I have things. Suicide prevention is something that's really close to me, just because it touched my life, and I know that it's hard to discuss and talk about it, but there's help out there. So thank you, everyone, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. So thank you.
Thanks for that, both of you. And yeah, just feeling grateful again for the chance to connect with both of you and all of the folks who will watch this conversation and catch up with us as well. So thank you to both of you. Again, we're just sending love to all of our friends who aren't here with us today, and wishing you all well. Sending love. And thank you to each of you who have decided to tune in and watch this conversation. We're very grateful to be forming and building more connections. As Peng discussed, it's really about all of the ways that each of us are interconnected within communities. So grateful that you've decided to spend some time with us here. We want to take a moment to thank our funding partners, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota and the Novo Foundation, for all of their support in helping us continue these very important conversations. And as a reminder, these conversations typically are held every other Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. The next time we will be gathering will actually be a little further out. So Thursday, October 6th at 12 p.m. That's about a month away. A couple of us have some trainings and other things. As again, Peng mentioned, it's becoming a busy time. So we are going to gather as often as we can during our scheduled sessions. And so we'll hope to see you on October 6th. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. You can also connect with us on YouTube, where you can find all of our previous kitchen table conversations. And again, we just want to encourage each of you to take what you have seen here and bring it back to your kitchen table, to your office boardroom, wherever those conversations can happen. It doesn't have to be for an hour. It can be longer. This is just we're just exampling what is possible. So again, have these conversations with your folks. And we look forward to being with you next time in about a month's time. All right. Take care, everybody.